My name is Ed Sander. Before I went to China in 2011, I used to work for the financial sector. I think that I probably needed to sort of repair my karma after working in that sector for a couple of years, so I decided to volunteer. And I went to China to be an international volunteer in the city of Xi'an, and I was helping very small local charities, local NGOs to do their marketing. And those were these situations where you're like around the coffee table, around the kitchen table with these Chinese people and trying to get them to promote their own companies and their organizations. And while I was there, I was so fascinated by what I saw in the area of e-commerce, social media, and digital innovation that I started writing about that. And every year, since 2012, I collect all of the articles I write for all of these different publications, and I publish them in a book and in an e-book, a free e-book. So what I'm going to do at the end of this presentation, I'm going to tell you how you can get these free e-books as well, so you can take that with you later on. Who of you has ever been in China? So, yeah. Who's doing business? Who has worked with China? Yeah? So most of the people here have not worked with China yet. So what I want to do before I hand over to Bart, and he's going to tell you how you can do business with China, I'm going to tell you a bit about China itself, about the market and about the people. What a lot of people have the misconception that China is like Shanghai. The whole of China is like Shanghai, like big skyscrapers, big neon buildings. But that's only part of the country, and there's very big differences in the country. Most of the people, about half of the people, are still living in rural areas, in the countryside, like you see on this slide. And what I want to do is I want to take you into the mind of somebody that might be born in the countryside, where her mother and her father might have been a farmer. And what could happen as he slowly turns into what we understand to be a consumer, because consumption and being a consumer is really something quite new in China. So let's imagine that we're talking about a fictitious woman. She's born in the countryside. This is her parents working in the field, but the whole family saves up money so that she can study in the big city. So she's going to Shanghai. Now, what is also quite important to realize that in China you have something which is called a hukou. And a hukou is like an internal household registration. And it binds your social rights to the place you were born. So if you were born in the countryside and you would move to the city, then your rights for education and healthcare are still in the countryside. So you could not go to a school and go to a doctor in Shanghai. The exception is when you go to university, then you can change your hukou and then you can actually stay. And that's a development that we see happening very fast in China in the last couple of decades. If you look at this picture, this is the development of urbanization that is taking place. And this is just the last couple of years and the years ahead. Currently, there's about 250 million households living in the cities. And by 2030, that will be more than 300 million. And what's happening when people are moving from the countryside to the cities is they find better jobs, they find better education, and their income is rising. So their wealth is going up, their livelihoods are improving, and that's what you see happening here. So where currently still a lot of people have very low incomes, in the year 2030, most of the people will be middle class or even affluent. And the affluent people and the middle class people are the people that we are talking about today, because those are the ones that are buying the products that we make in our countries. So let's again imagine that that woman, that she studied in university. As soon as you graduate from university in China, your parents and your family and society expects you to get married as soon as possible and have children as soon as possible. That's the way society works in China. If you're a 27-year-old woman and you're not married yet, you're considered to be a leftover woman. So there's a lot of pressure on these young people. What you want to do, of course, if you have your first baby, and up till recently there was still a one-child policy, you could only have one kid in China, you want that kid to have the best. It's not very common in China to do breastfeeding, also because if you work, there's not facilities in your workplace that sort of help you do that. So most women in China give their children baby milk powder, milk formula. Now, this company, this specific company, is called Sanlu, and there was a big scandal back in 2008. You might have heard about this. You will definitely have noticed it in your supermarkets and your drugstores also in Belgium, because everything seems to be disappearing since a couple of years, all of the milk powder. And that has to do with the fact that this company, Sanlu, they had a certain substance in their product called melamine. The reason why they put it in their product is because it makes the protein count of the product higher. So you can get more for a product which actually is not as good as it looks. But there's a different problem with that, because it makes the kids that are drinking this milk very sick. There's 300,000 babies in China in the year 2008 that got really sick, that had kidney problems, and 6 babies actually died. The management of this company, of Sanlu, they were sentenced to death. I think 2 or 3 management people. But you can imagine what the impact of something like this is on the trust of the consumer in China. And in China, the mothers really feel like they are trying to save their kids from their own country, from the pollution in their country, from the unsafe products in that country. And what I've been doing while I was living in China, I've been keeping track of some of the biggest scandals that were appearing in the press. And if you just look at some of these things, you can imagine that a lot of the Chinese people are even afraid to, even though the kitchen is fantastic, they're afraid to eat their own products. And this is just over the course of 2 years. The absolute shocker in here is gutter oil. Gutter oil is gutter that has been used in a restaurant, and somebody scoops it from the sewers when it is disposed out of the restaurant, filters it, and sends it back again, sells it back to the same restaurants. The estimation is that 10% of all meals in China are prepared with gutter oil. Well, that shouldn't stop you from eating in China if you ever go there. What I do, I normally skip every 10th meal, and then I should be fine, I hope. But it is a really, really big problem. To give you an idea about the people behind this, this is a case that appeared in 2013 in the news. And it was a field of wheat, and the farmer was irrigating his crops with wastewater from the nearby paper mill. As you can see, there was like a layer of pulp and carton on top of his crops. And when they went out to interview him, he was acting quite jolly about it. And when they asked him, "But do you eat your own products?" this was the answer that they gave them. So, he knows that his products are not good. He is not eating it himself, because he gets something from the next village, hoping that that will be safe. But he's very well aware that he's selling unsafe products to his customers. But at the same time, it's his only way to survive. And this is something that the Chinese consumers constantly keep in the back of their minds. Every year, the Pew Research Center has a survey where they ask the Chinese consumers, what are your biggest concerns? And every year, we see quality of manufactured goods, safety of food, and safety of medicine. So safety of the products you buy, it's very high in the list of their biggest concerns. Now, if you look at air pollution and water pollution up there, those of course also have an impact on the safety of the products that you consume. But let's say that you have found somebody in Belgium or in Holland that can send you some safe milk, baby milk formula. And then you start saving for a good phone, because maybe you have worked in the Foxconn company for a while, where these phones are assembled, but eventually you want one of those phones yourself. So you go online, you go to a web shop like Taobao, Alibaba's Taobao, and you order yourself an iPhone. So you think you're going to get an Apple phone, but what you get sent is a pear. So this is something that happens in China as well. This is called Shanghai. Shanghai literally means mountain forest, which refers to like these bandits living somewhere in the mountains, and they're producing all of these fake goods to send out into the world, and nobody can get to them. But it's all over China, and it's actually been part of the drive of the Chinese economy for a while. In China, you can even go out and get your cup of coffee from Starbucks. So this is another worry of the Chinese people. If you ask them, what are you worried about if you buy something online? It's the authenticity of the products that they buy. And if you look at this one, the discrepancy of what they see online and what they actually get sent is also, of course, has to do with the fact that what you think you're buying and what you're actually getting might not be the same thing. So this is another big concern of the online shoppers. But let's assume that this woman finally gets sent her iPhone. And as you will see, everybody that has an iPhone, if you look at the back of your iPhone, it's designed by Apple in California, but it's assembled in China. Like I said, in one of the Foxconn company factories, for instance. But that doesn't mean that because it's assembled in China, it's cheaper. As a matter of fact, if you buy the iPhone 6 in China, it's 22% more expensive than if we buy it here. And it has to do with the fact that it gets re-imported, and then additional luxury tax gets added to this product, which can differ between 10 to 50%, depending on the product category. So if we add all of these different factors up, you have the lack of trust in products, the lack of trust in the people that are selling you those products. You have the high domestic pricing. The products are more expensive than abroad. And you have the worries about, are these products real? Are they authentic? And these combinations, combined with the fact that a lot of Chinese consumers are really interested in foreign products, this leads to what we're discussing today, and that's cross-border commerce. Of all luxury products that are consumed around the world, 1/3 of those products are bought by Chinese people. But only 1/5 of those products are sold inside China. So that means that there must be a lot of products being bought outside China and find their way back into the country. And the most obvious one is Chinese tourists. Well, there's a lot of Chinese tourists, especially if you are in Brugge or if you're in Brussels. You will see a lot of Chinese tourists, maybe not as much as the moment because of the terrorist attacks. The visits to Belgium and France have been down for 15% of Chinese tourists, but there's still a lot coming, and that it will pick up again. But these Chinese tourists don't just come for leisure. It's their most important reason to come to our countries, but they also come to shop. Because they basically have made a list of all of the things that they want, and their parents want, their brothers want, if they have a brother, their nephews want. They basically have a whole shopping list, and they've planned it all. They know what and where to buy. So looking at how Chinese tourists spend their money, they almost spend up to 60% of their total budget for the trip on buying things. So that's one of the ways that they get their hands on foreign products. A second method is called Daigou. And Daigou translates into on behalf of somebody else. And a Daigou is either a person that goes abroad and with one of those shopping lists and goes to buy all of those things for you, or they might live in a different country and you can place orders with them and they send it back to you. A lot of the people that buy up all of the milk powder are Chinese students living in different countries around the world, and they send it back, they sell it on WeChat, which Bart will talk about later. About 60% of the Chinese people that are buying luxury goods have used a Daigou in the past, and about half of the luxury goods have found their way into China through Daigou in the year 2014. It doesn't always work. Sometimes these people get caught, like in this case, when somebody was trying to smuggle a bunch of iPhone 6s into the country from Hong Kong, or this person. And he was sort of picked up by the border police because he was sort of walking slightly robotic. And even last week, this person got caught with some brand new iPhone 7s, which he had stuffed into his socks. On the day that the iPhone 7 was released in Hong Kong, the border control found 400 iPhones that people were trying to smuggle into the country. But there's also, of course, the possibility to buy things online, either at foreign websites or websites in your own country. And then I have to tell you something about the internet in China. The internet in China has come relatively late compared to our own countries. But it's been really booming, and currently there's 710 million Chinese people online. As you will also see, most of them, or a lot of them, a big portion of them, will go online through their mobile phone. There are a lot of Chinese people that don't have a desktop, that don't have a laptop computer. They can only go online through their smartphone. But still, this is only 50% of the population. And if we look at the people who are shopping, you'll see that these are the people with no internet access, and of the people with internet access, 37% of the total are shopping online, and 15% are online but not shopping yet. And this also explains why a company like Alibaba has had such a record-breaking IPO, because there's still, it's a huge market, but there's still so much growth potential in this same market. And that's happening with cross-border commerce. So cross-border commerce is Chinese people buying foreign products online. And as you can see here, it's still continuing to grow very fast. And by the year 2020, 50% roughly of all people that are buying online are buying foreign products, and that's 25% of the total population. So we're only at the start of this. It is something that really began to grow 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, because some of the big platforms in China opened up sort of sub-platforms where foreign brands could sell their products to the Chinese people, like JD Worldwide and Alibaba's Tmall Global, and Bart will talk more about that. But you can see that this is a trend that will continue. This is a huge market with huge opportunities. So are they interested in all of the products? No. There are certain products that have a very high interest. And some I have already mentioned, like baby care, but food products and beauty care products are also very popular categories. And what you see here is the comparison between the percentage that category has in domestic online shopping versus international, cross-border online shopping. So in China, on domestic web shops, only 2% of the products are food, but internationally it's 11%. And of course, baby care and beauty care, 31% of the total gross merchandising volume is beauty care products. And there's a trend here. Can you spot the trend why these products are so popular? It's everything that you put either in your body or in your child's body or in your family's body or you put on your body. Anything that could be a safety and a health hazard is a very popular product. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hand over to Bart, and he's going to tell you if this is an interesting market for you, and even if you might not be active in these specific product categories, there might still be a lot of Chinese people that are interested in your products. So how to get them into the market, into their hands, and that's what Bart is going to tell you.
All right. Thank you.